to mention that MSNBC part. That was what I call pre-Keith Olbermann. I was there before him. When he came, I was out of there. Morning, all. Now that I've had my coffee, I can say with all sincerity, it's a pleasure to be with you today. And it is a real honor to address the Conservative Leadership Conference. Let me take this opportunity to thank Alan, the gracious introduction, for thanking Chuck, the other good people of Citizen Outreach, and Senator Dean Heller for inviting me here today. I'm a regular reader, as I'm sure many of you are, of Chuck's thought-provoking web magazine, News and Views. In fact, I was back there in the green room a few minutes ago reading it, and someone asked me if I was the warm-up act for Herman Cain. I said I am if he'll have me. That's actually not completely true. But what is true is that Herman Cain, unlike a few others, is here at this conference. And he will be here later today at 2 o'clock. I believe he's doing a book signing. And I believe, at 2 o'clock, I believe he's going to be speaking. Check your schedule, and I know he's going to be doing a book signing as well. I know we are all very enthusiastic about his presidential candidacy.
Yeah! Woo!
What I say to those in the campaign who are supporting Herman and those that are not supporting Herman is that his candidacy is the candidacy that lifts all boats, win or lose. Well, let me talk to you a little bit about the Congress of Racial Equality. Alan did a good overview, but let me tell you a little bit more about the Congress of Racial Equality. CORE was started in 1942 principally to fight back against segregation. A major program of the Congress of Racial Equality was the Freedom Rides. How many of you saw on PBS last month, I think it was a month and a half ago, the documentary Freedom Riders? Anybody check to see that? Okay, pretty good. Let's see. We have a brilliant audience here, that's why. The Freedom, PBS and other, as Sarah Palin calls them, lamestream media, often get history wrong. In this one case, PBS did get history right, and they did a good job with the Freedom Rides. The Freedom Rides sought to dramatically challenge local customs and laws that upheld the institution of segregation. And a great deal of blood, sweat, and tears were shed in this effort, and many more for the Civil Rights Revolution. And as we know, these efforts would lead to the passage of the 1964 Civil Rights Act that would change our country forever. What many don't talk about is the fact that without the overwhelming majority of the Republican Party backing that civil rights legislation, it would have gone down to defeat because Democrats at that time filibustered against it. By the late 1960s, CORE realized that the country was going through a dramatic change, and CORE realized that it must change as well. Of course, the liberals termed that CORE was hijacked by right-wing extremists. I'm serious, folks. That's actually what they say. Go to George Soros's funded People for the American Way website, and that's what they say about the Congress of Racial Equality. The truth, of course, is much more complicated. By the late 60s, as I said, the country was already dramatically changing on the issue of race, and CORE felt it needed to keep up with the times and change too. Under the leadership of Roy Innis, our national chairman, CORE began to examine problems endemic to the black community that had little or nothing to do with segregation. Issues like black-on-black crime, welfare dependency, out-of-wedlock birth, economic development, and government impediments to economic development. These became the issues that would dominate CORE for the next several decades. Our focus and vision would be in direct contrast and often in conflict with, sometimes even physical conflict with, the civil rights establishment. That clash of visions continues today. Many in the civil rights establishment continue to fight the same decades-old battles won long ago. They continue to fight those battles even today with a black president of the United States. Okay, beige president of the United States. You guys cannot say that. I can, okay? Just ask Harry Reid, all right? But seriously, it's even worse than that. The civil rights movement has devolved, ladies and gentlemen. It has devolved into a civil rights industry where non-existent racial grievances have been transformed into a powerful political weapon of mass destruction, where the charge alone, without a shred of evidence, without a shred of truth, is enough. Phony charges like the Tea Party movement is racist. Charges like Republicans are suppressing the minority vote. Worse than that, ladies and gentlemen, you now have one of our major political parties, the Democrats, that has incorporated this tactic of racial scaremongering. On the O'Reilly Factor last year, I called it the Al Sharptonization of the Democratic Party. Now, you know, the irony of that is Al Sharpton, who started all this nonsense, has grown beyond that. He doesn't use those tactics anymore. But mainstream leaders of the Democratic Party do, including those in the White House. If you don't believe me, just go to the internet. Just last week, Bill Clinton said, and I quote, "There has never been in my lifetime, since we got rid of the poll tax and Jim Crow burdens on voting, the determined effort to limit a franchise than we see today." Former President of the United States, Bill Clinton. Now, the irony here is rich, because many of you know that Bill Clinton began his political career mentored by a real segregationist Democrat, J. William Fulbright. But let's examine what Slick Willie is talking about. Oh, you forgot that name. Yes, we used to call him Slick Willie. Before he became the president of the world, like Chris Matthews says. Voter fraud in our country is as old as the Republic itself. Of course, many of you heard the saying in Dick Daley's Chicago, vote early, vote often. Voter fraud is as old as the word ballot, not just in this country, going back to ancient Rome. So when citizens make the effort, want to make sure that there's voter integrity, you call that racism? Give me a break. One of the voter integrity plans is to demand an ID to verify that you are who you say you are. That's racism? My God, you need an ID to get on an airplane. You need an ID to open up a bank account. You need a bloody ID to get a bag of potato chips with a debit card. So are these requirements meant to suppress minority firing? Minority banking? An effort to suppress minority banking? Or maybe it's an insidious plot to repress minority potato chip buying? Come on. We know what really is going on here. These folk want the polls to be free to steal elections.